This is a continuation of 8th grade ELAR, week 6 for learning at home. This is, I suppose, part 3, the Sacagawea kind of mini unit with fictional text. So I will be reading the beginning of the story, Sacagawea, the camp by the river from Sacagawea, the story of Bird Woman and the Lewis and Clark expedition by Joseph Bruhat. Firstborn son, how has your day been? I remember what it was like when I was a child of 7 winters such as you. Everything around me was exciting, though our lives were much simpler in our mountains than here in the great city of St. Louis. I'm glad that we have your good uncle, Captain Clark, to watch over us while you and your father, Charbonneau, are here, and I are here as guests in his great house. But now that your busy day is over, perhaps you'd like to hear a story. All right, then, I will begin in the place where I began, there near the 3 rivers at the foot of the great mountains that divide the sky. The day started off as a good day. Our village was camped at the place where the 3 rivers join. The sun shone on the water as it rippled and flowed. I remember finding a little stick that was in the shape of a canoe. I dropped it into the main river and watched as it floated away. "River," I said, "where are you going in such a jury? What would it be like to float along with you?" I did not know how soon I would find out. It was the moon when the berries are ripe. That is why my best friend and I were away from the camp, a short distance downstream from the others. There were berry bushels there. We were picking berries happily and singing the picking song our children sometimes sing. You know that song. "This berry is large, I'll put it in my basket. This berry is small, I'll put it in my mouth." That day, as I remember, we had probably put more berries into our mouths than in our baskets. Our faces and fingers were as red as blood from the juice of the fat, ripe berries. Even though in our song we said the berries were small, I remember that they were very fat. All the berries were fat when I was young. I had 11 winters. I had a husband already. I did not live with him. I was still in the lodge of my parents, but I had been promised to marry to a man by my father. That man, my husband to be, had already made a gift of horses to my family. In less than a handful of winters, I would have gone to him, but then I would have never met your father. I would have never taken my first long journey. I would have never become the woman who was lost. You, my tall boy, would never have been here in the house of your good uncle. How did we know there was trouble? My best friend, Wren, was the first to hear the cry. "Enemies! Many enemies!" The first sound of guns came right out of that shout. I stood there, unable to move. Wren tugged my hand. Then she tugged it harder. "Boat pusher," she shouted. "We must flee." Then she was off, running away from the sounds of shouting and gunfire and the pounding of horses' hooves. I looked back towards our village. People were scattering in all directions like flocks of ducks before a diving hawk. They were too far away for me to join them. I followed Wren as best I could, but her legs were longer than mine, and I could not keep up with her. As fast as we ran, though, it was no use. The enemies had attacked from more than one direction. There, right in front of us, were more enemies on horseback. We were running right toward them. That was when Wren received her new name. She turned and ran across the stream with her long legs. She leaped and bounded and was across almost as quickly as slopping stone of a jumping fish. And as I would learn later, that became her name for the rest of her life, Jumping Fish.